Hello and welcome to another episode on Maritime Radar. Nigeria is an import-dependent nation, and yet we are not a shipping nation, despite her huge contribution to global trade. Playing marginally in the industry, it is on record that no fewer than 90% of shipping companies owned by Nigerians have either completely shut down their operations or barely struggling to survive. How to drive the development of Nigeria's indigenous shipping activity and foreign dominance, curb the billions of dollars lost, create jobs, and increase her foreign earnings are some of the issues that will be on the front burner on today's show. I'm Norma Obiaswala. Nigeria, which is ranked the 7th largest oil producing in the world, is the only oil producing country that does not carry or drop its crude. Industry statistics shows that Nigeria generates an estimated annual cargo throughput of 150 million metric tons, with freight earnings in excess of $5 billion in her international trade transactions. 95% of this income is earned by foreigners, with job deprivation that comes with it. The same dominance by foreigners is also extended to the domestic shipping market, where an estimated $3 billion annual marine-related spending in the oil and gas production activities are virtually earned by foreigners. What is seen is a situation of so much activity and so much money, but little impact on the lives of Nigerians. No wonder the country's bad economy accounts for the high level of frustration and restiveness in the country. With this in mind, the federal government of Nigeria came up with a cabotage law in the maritime industry and the local content policy in the oil and gas sector to tackle this challenge. Yet, implementation or political will has ensured the almost death of Nigeria's shipping sector. Before we get further into today's lineup on the program, let's find out the latest in maritime news.
Officials of the Nigerian Navy Forward Operating Base, Ibaka, in Mbo local government area of Akwa Ibom State, have arrested 13 Nigerians and 4 Ghanaians over illegal fishing, impounding a vessel named MFV Toke 2 used by the suspects. The base operating officer, Commander Daniel Onyemeze, while handing the suspects and the vessel over to the Federal Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture, said the Navy received an intelligence report about illegal trawling activities within 2 nautical miles of the Nigerian continental shelf. At the time of arrest, MFV Toke 2 had a 17-man crew with 13 Nigerians and 4 Ghanaians on board. It was laden with 150 bags of fish, 100 packs of shrimps, and 20 loosed fish in 2 cold rooms, all gotten from illicit trawling activities. The Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, has unveiled the Time Release Study Service (TRS), an initiative to streamline cargo clearance and boost trade facilitation in Nigeria. Adeniyi revealed this at the launch of the World Customs Organization Assisted Time Release Study in Lagos. He explained that TRS is a globally acknowledged tool devised by the WCO to facilitate the clearance process of goods from arrival until their physical release. Nigeria underwent the TRS in 2010 and 2018. This year's own builds on the lessons learned from the previous attempts. Tinkan Island Port will serve as the pilot location. The Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboye Oyetola, has launched a new service charter and grievance redress mechanism for the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. Oyetola said the charter, named Service Redefined, was well-timed and aligned with the objectives of the ministry, noting that the service charter similarly represents a public bond by NIMASA to provide high-quality, efficient, and transparent services to stakeholders in the maritime industry and the general public. The minister, who was represented by the Director of Maritime Safety and Security, Babatunde Bombata, said the charter outlines the agency's specific service commitments in areas such as registration, certification, and inspection. It is also a tool for accountability that sets out clear expectations for stakeholders and provides a mechanism for the agency to measure its performance, which will ensure that the agency is meeting the needs of the industry and the public.
We go where the market demands, as business, trade, and market analysis are the core of our reports.
Nigerians are beginning to speculate that the price of premium motor spirit might increase.
If it's breaking, we got it. If it affects you, your business, and your pocket, we're on it. We connect the dots of business so you understand what it all means.
It is our hope that the efforts of the federal government to tame inflation yields desired results as soon as possible.
I am Perpetua Fasamipita. You're watching News Central.
If you are just joining us, this is Maritime Radar. Research has disclosed that no Nigerian vessel was listed among the 500 vessels that visited the Nigerian port in the first quarter of 2015, and no Nigerian flagship plied international route. This rather sad reality means no value added to the huge annual tonnage generated by way of earnings in freight, which translates into billions of dollars lost to Nigeria. Even the coastal trade reserved for indigenous operators are seen being dominated by foreign operators, and the common reason for this is the lack of capacity by the indigenous operators in the provision of seaworthy ships. The Nigerian ship owners have consistently cited lack of financial capacity, insecurity, infrastructure, and foreign dominance as the bane of the Nigerian shipping companies. On the flip side, experts, including master mariners, say it's actually a challenge of bad management, not understanding the business and not setting aside a required percentage for maintenance. What exactly is hampering the development of indigenous shipping in Nigeria is what Benita Afolabi, a freight forwarder and managing director, Keystone Global Resources Limited, will help us understand on the show. Stay with us. It's good to have you on the show. Let's start this conversation looking at the potential of the Nigerian shipping industry. And what do you think the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy should be doing now to drive it?
Thank you so much for having me. The Marine and Blue Economy, I think we had a roundtable conversation with the Minister and his team. And I think now the next phase of action should be that all of these things, all of these conversations we had at the roundtable needs to roll out. Okay. We had same roundtable conversation with the Customs Controller General, and right there at the roundtable conversation, we already had timelines. Okay. For those ones that concerns tariff and trade, right there and then, he called the DCG tariff and trade. Give us a timeline. Are we working with 3 months? Are we working with 2 weeks? Give us a timeline. So I think the Marine and Blue Economy Minister needs to now bring his team together and say, okay, we've had the roundtable meeting, we've had the conversations, we've had from all stakeholders. The next thing now is action. Like I would always say, I'm tired of talking the talk. Let's walk the talk. So I think it's not time for the minister to walk the talk.
Maybe the minister needs to have a clear understanding of what the potential of the shipping industry is. So what will you be giving, or what is the potential that the shipping industry is? So maybe that's what he needs to tackle.
Okay, yeah, I think he is a money person, so he already has an idea of what the shipping sector is bringing into the economy at large. Without the blue and marine economy, this was a sector that was newly inaugurated, and we're so happy because this is where we have been missing it. So now I know, we all know that the what this brings into the economy at large. Without marine, there is absolutely no water, and you know how versatile our coastal lines and are. So this, he needs to also know that, look at the number of vessels that call in the Nigerian ports, enormous. And are they Nigerian-owned vessel? No. Are they crewed by Nigerians? No. Are they owned by Nigerians? No. So that is a big part of investment that they need to look into. With this, you have the numbers. Look at the numbers. 95% of what comes into this economy is through the marine and blue economy. So I think the minister needs to look in depth as to how we can channel investments, or maybe the PPP, private partnership. There are a lot of indigenes who also have funds to invest, but because they don't have clear understanding of these policies, they don't know, oh, if I invest in this, will another policy not come tomorrow? Will another ministry not come tomorrow? And it's over. So the minister needs to sit down, look at these things, put together. What are the challenges? Which at the roundtable conversation, we had already shared our challenges. We have shared suggestions on how this can work seamlessly.
Just as you mentioned, I would like to ask, over 80% of vessels operating in Nigeria are owned and crewed by foreigners, which is in clear violation of the Cabotage Act of 2003. So what do you think are the challenges that is hampering the growth of indigenous shipping in Nigeria? And the second leg of it is that, how do you think we can now, looking at solution, increase indigenous participation when it comes to indigenous shipping in Nigeria?
Okay, thank you. Looking at the indigenous shipping sector, the indigenous shipping part of the marine businesses, you realize that first, if you compare stakeholders who are Nigerian stakeholders to other investors who come into the country, they have access to funds. They have policies that supports investments for them. So what policies do we have that is supporting us? For instance, I'll give a clear example of when Lekki Port was to flag off. We as stakeholders knew there would be need for seagoing badges. And I took a trip to Istanbul in Turkey to verify if I could get seagoing badge. And fortunately, I got one. And we got investors. We're looking at, okay, putting one or two partners together to purchase this, to bring back to Nigeria so we can flag it Nigerian, crew it Nigeria. And when it got to the point of purchase, we were to move these funds to the country of purchase. That was where we're stuck. Policies around the movement of funds and all of it, we got stuck. And before we could move these funds to Istanbul, the vessel was sold. So this is a way of discouraging indigenous investors and even indigenous stakeholders, because when policies that you put in place are like bottleneck, too many bottleneck, at the end of the day, you see that people would prefer to take their investments to other countries where they have access and easy operation.
So looking at this now, so what is the way forward? You've mentioned policies, obviously also maybe implementation. Do you think it's also implementation, aside from inconsistent policies that are somersaulted? What else do you think is hampering indigenous shipping? Because looking at Nigeria, we are import dependent. Looking at our population, it's sad to see that we are not a player in these huge shipping activities. So what solutions will you prefer as an operator in this whatever?
For me, I think it still boils down to the regulatory bodies. Okay. Security is a part of it that we still need to look into. security, that's another huge part of it, because everybody, not just security as to the vessel or humans, security as to policies. You have a policy today, tomorrow is changing. You have various agencies running the same thing. You bring in a vessel now, MPA wants to be involved, NIMASA wants to be involved, NIWA wants to be involved, all on one vessel, one similar duties. I'll say similar, because when you put on the table, they tell you, no, they are not similar. This is checking for this, but I tell you they are similar.
So, but do you even see coordination or collaboration amongst these government agencies that is geared towards ensuring that we have a thriving shipping industry?
I think sometime last year there was a one-man arrangement that they had, that they said, okay, MPA, NIMASA, NIWA, let's come together and make it a single regulator. Okay. Not single as to, they would meet, NIWA, NIMASA, they would meet and they will come out with a policy that will be one, but okay, it's still not implemented. Wow. It's still not implemented. So we're looking forward to that day or that time where all these agencies will come together and roll out a single regulation that binds everybody.
So it's not only a challenge of policy, we also have a challenge of implementation.
Interagencies. Interagencies also.
Okay.
Challenges of implementation of these policies.
Okay, we are due for a break. When we return, we'll be looking at the importance, that is the benefits Nigeria will be getting by driving its indigenous shipping. That will be after the short break. Please stay with us.
News Central TV, Africa's #1 storyteller, has come with the best of both worlds. With a combination of news app and live TV, we ensure that you keep track of the latest headlines, breaking news, and in-depth analysis from professional journalists from around the continent. Download the News Central TV app on Android and iOS and get started today. Don't forget to follow us on News Central's social media platforms. News Central, Africa first.
If you are just joining us, this is Maritime Radio, and I still have with me Benita Afolabi. She is a freight forwarder and the managing director, Keystone Global Resources Limited. Before we went on that break, I said we've been looking at the challenges, we've been looking at the potential of Nigeria's indigenous shipping. But let's come home now and look at what is the benefit for a common Nigerian on the street. What is the benefit? Looking at the fact that we are an import-dependent nation, yet we don't get the benefits of the shipping industry. So what is the importance of improving this indigenous shipping industry?
There are so many benefits of improving the indigenous shipping as to job creation. Job creation. If we have vessels that are owned by Nigerians, one, it's going to bring in revenue to the economy at large. It's going to bring in driving revenue. It's going to close the gap of unemployment. It's going to give us this confidence again as Nigerians. So we can pride ourselves within Africa and the global space that we are a shipping industry also, because if we have vessels owned, crewed by Nigerians, these vessels we call other West African countries, Europe, Asia, there are no limits to the countries these vessels will call. So it's going to drive in huge income for the economy.
Okay, another thing that talking to ship owners in the industry, one of the key things they have mentioned, aside from infrastructure, aside from security, or you mentioned policies and implementation, maybe political will, one key thing that has been consistent amongst these challenges is funding. So what do you think, or how can an indigenous player in the sector have a seaworthy vessel, then how do you think they can source for funds aside from CVFF?
Okay, thank you. For me, like I would always say, I'm not interested in the CVFF funds, because it's just like a piece of cake that is going to be put here and 1,000 person wants to come feast from that. We have investors who are willing to come into Nigeria to invest.
Okay.
We have even local investors who are taking their investment outside the country because they are not sure of what their investment, the ROI on their investment. So somebody who has, say, $1 million and feels, okay, if I invest here in Nigeria, I might wake up tomorrow morning and one policy will come up and the entire investment chain is scrapped because it is back here, you sleep today, the next morning is another, you are in another land in the same country. So even the indigenes who have funds to invest, they are not comfortable investing here because of these unregulated issues. So I think we should just look way beyond the CVFF, because there's a lot of cry, there's a lot of talk. Everybody is waiting. Let's split it, let's share it. So for me, I think there are local investors, there are foreign investors who are also looking into this space to come and invest.
Okay.
So let's don't just depend on the CVFF.
So what exactly are the other sources? Because you just mentioned foreign investors, but the foreign investors will also look at these challenges you have mentioned, which is policy, and that is not consistent. So do you think a foreign investor will want to invest into this? Which other ways you think we could source for fund internally? Someone had mentioned BOI. I don't know how that will play out, because investors also want to be sure of their funds.
Okay, for me, I would say collaboration to me is the new competition. So gone are those days where we should be competing. We should be doing collaboration. I, for one, maybe the chairman of Keystone Global Resources as say, okay, we have a vessel for purchase and the vessel says $10 million. And my chairman says, oh, I have $1 million, Benita. You come and you say, you have $1 million. We put this together collaboratively and say, let's purchase this vessel. And I think that's another part we're not looking at. Because everybody wants to be on their own. No, let it be Grand Benny Gold or MV Benny Gold and not MV Joint or MV Neutral. Everybody wants to carry the glory. Fine, the glory is sweet, but with good collaboration, we can then get funds. Same thing, I would quickly bring this in, I forgot, is our taxing system. Why? Look at the FIRS, for instance. You would realize that when they are to tax custom brokers, we pay huge amounts on taxes. Because they'll tell you that is what came into your account. But is that profit for me? No. Somebody wants to clear a car and you pay me 10 million naira. From that 10 million naira, I'm paying duty of 9.5 million naira. I have 500,000 naira left. I'm going to pay the shipping company. I'm going to pay the terminal. I'm going to pay some unreceipted expense. And I come at the end of the 10 million transaction, I have just 50,000 naira to go home with. And FIRS will tell me I'm giving you tax on
the 10 million.
On 10 million. So you see where they really need to come back to the drawing board.
It's a sad situation. Before I let you go, there is, aside from collaboration, which is beautiful advice you have given, what is the role of government in owning Nigerian flag vessels?
Well, those are part of what we're expectant from the new ministry that was just vetted, the marine and blue economy. Our intention and our plea is that they should look into investing in vessels for Nigerian, owned by Nigerian, crewed by Nigerian. We have good resources as to human resources. If you look at our captains, for those of us who operate the local tugboats, you see the number of employments that is created from our own investment as tug and barge operators. From the barge operation itself, you have captains, you have engineers, you have deckhands, you have cooks, you have so imagine for a locally crafted tugboat, not to talk of a vessel. From this, you would know, if you count the numbers of crews on each vessel, I'm sure unemployment level will go drastically down. And this is also a means of funding for the country at large, not just the operator, the country at large.
I must thank you most kindly for your time and thoughts on the program, as we look forward to the minister to be able to harvest all these ideas, all this advice, and be able to drive the indigenous shipping in Nigeria. It's been Benita Afolabi. She is a freight forwarder and the managing director of Keystone Global Resources Limited. Many thanks for your time and thoughts on the program.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
Africa needs its own storytellers, people who understand the continent because they're from it, people who know that news is more than just a conversation starter, it's our stories. Because these stories run deeper than headlines and segments. It's about digging deeper to get the facts and telling the human side of every single story, not just the echoes from foreign headlines and perspectives. It's time to take back our narratives and share them in our voices. The birth of Africa's New Age reporting, and this is where it begins, right here at News Central TV, with stories that put Africa first.
And that's our show this week. I hope you learned something about Nigeria's indigenous shipping industry and what can be done to drive it. Join us every week on Maritime Radio as we explore potential that will ensure the development of the maritime sector in Africa. You can also explore the latest in global and local maritime news plus industry insight right here. I'm Norma Obiaswalo. Many thanks for your time and see you again next week.